Hello, and welcome to today's Wages Wednesday presentation with Denver Labor. Today, we're going to be going over Denver's citywide minimum wage and how it applies to the food and beverage industry. My name is Abby Kreckman. I'm the lead labor compliance analyst. On our presentation today, we're going to go over the minimum wage ordinance, tip credits, overtime work, resources that our office provides for employers and employees, how to submit a wage complaint, and then provide our contact information in case you have any other questions. So Denver's citywide minimum wage ordinance, when does it apply? It applies to all work performed within the geographical boundaries of the city and county of Denver since January 1st of 2020 when it first went into effect. It does not represent nor does it require any contractual relationship with the city, and there are a few exceptions written into the ordinance that we'll go over. But most importantly, what is the current minimum wage rate in Denver? It is $15.87 per hour. When does it apply geographically? If you're curious where you work, does it apply to you? We have a great tool that's available on our website called the Denver Regional Address Finder. You can plug your address in here where you perform work, and it will tell you if it's within the city and county of Denver. And this is much more reliable than any other search you're going to do, any Google search. This is the tool that we use to make our determination regarding whether the work is within our jurisdiction or not. And this is available on our website, denverwages.org. I mentioned that there are some exceptions written into the ordinance. These exceptions allow employers to not have to comply with Denver's citywide minimum wage. They still are subject to statewide minimum wage, but those exceptions are written into the ordinance, and they include if a company has a certified youth program through the city, independent contractors who set their own rates, own their own companies. If work is performed in Denver for less than 4 hours per week, it is not subject to Denver's citywide minimum wage. If you agree to perform work as a volunteer, obviously you're not going to be subject to it. And if you're just traveling through Denver, so if you're a trucker and you're going across country, the hours that you spend in Denver are not subject to Denver's citywide minimum wage. Tip credit specifically for the food and beverage industry. What happens if you work in the food and beverage industry and you're a tipped employee? Well, your employer can actually reduce their minimum wage obligation by the actual tips that you receive, up to $3.02 per hour. So if you receive less than that, they can reduce it by the actual amount you receive. If you receive more than $3.02, $5, $10, $15 per hour in tips, they are maxed at $3.02 per hour that they can take credit toward their minimum wage obligation. And a reminder, this is only for employees working within the food and beverage industry. So when does it apply? Only for the food and beverage industry. That could be restaurants, coffee shops, bars, any tipped employee serving food or beverages, they can have a tip credit for your minimum wage obligation. It does not apply to tipped employees working in other industries. So that could be a valet parker. If you work in a hair salon and you receive tips, if you're a wheelchair attendant or a baggage attendant at the airport, or if you work in a marijuana dispensary. These are all employers that they could receive tips, but they do not get to use the tip credit. Now, if you're a tipped employee working in the food and beverage industry, your employer can take a tip credit, and if they take that maximum tip credit, you should still see $12.85 per hour on your paycheck. That is the minimum that you can receive on your paycheck. Tips must be evidenced. Your employer must have some evidence that you are receiving tips equal to or greater than the amount of tip credit that they're taking. Another thing about the tip credit is that if you're working part of your time as a tipped employee and part of your time not as a tipped employee, there are some rules about whether or not they can take that tip credit for your entire shift. So for example, if you're a waitress and you are asked to come in 30 minutes early for your shift, to help set up silverware, that's going to be incidental to your regular work. It's a small amount of time incidental to your regular work. They can take tip credit for that. Now, if you're short-staffed and you're working at a pizza place and half the time you're making pizzas, half the time you're delivering pizzas, that's going to be over 20% of your time doing non-tipped work, working in the back of the house. In that case, that's a significant portion of your work working as a non-tipped employee. They cannot take a tip credit for those hours worked. If you have any questions about this specific rule, how it may apply to you or your employers or your employees, definitely contact us and we can make sure that you're doing everything correctly. Now, how do we calculate the tip credit? Here's the formula that we follow. We go back to what the total minimum wage rate is, minus the tip credit, and that's the hourly rate that should appear on your check. The tip credit cannot exceed $3.02 per hour. So a couple examples, if you are making more than $3.02 per hour, let's say you're a waiter and you're averaging $4 an hour in tips. You're going to take $15.87 minus $3.02. That's the maximum tip credit. Your check should say $12.85 per hour. Now, what if you make less than the maximum? If you're a barista and for whatever reason, you only made $2 in tips that pay period, you're going to say $15.87, that's the minimum wage, minus your actual tips received for that pay period, $2. So for that pay period, your check should say $13.87 per hour. I keep saying pay period because that's what we actually analyze for those tips. It's not on a daily basis. It's not on an hourly basis. It's averaged over that pay period. What is your tips per hour? So it is possible that your minimum wage might vary from pay period to pay period, depending on what your tips received for that pay period are. Another thing that might be a little different for the food and beverage industry for tipped employees is how we actually calculate your overtime rate. So overtime is anything worked over 40 hours in a 7-day pay period. And for tipped employees, everything reverts back to that minimum wage rate. So we're going back to the minimum wage rate, applying time and a half, and then applying the tip credit. Because that $3.02 maximum tip credit, that's the same on regular time and on overtime hours. And your employer does not get to apply the time and a half to your tips. It's just to your base rate. So let's see an example of this. That same waiter who works over 40 hours a week and earns $4 an hour in tips. Their overtime formula, once again, it's going to revert back to that total minimum wage rate of $15.87. We're going to apply time and a half to that and then take the tip credit. So you can see their total overtime rate is $20.78 per hour on their check. That same barista who's making $2 an hour in tips, it's the same thing. We're going back to that minimum wage rate of $15.87. We're applying time and a half to the minimum wage rate and then taking the tip credit. So their overtime rate on their check should be $21.80 per hour on their check. Here's just a little table that shows how this works. We've got our regular rate here of $15.87 for regular time hours, the $3.02 tip credit, maximum tip credit, and it's showing what should show on the check, $12.85 for regular time hours, $20.78 for overtime hours. Now, this is significant because it's not as simple as just saying time and a half times $12.85. If you were to do that, you would be saying time and a half on your tips as well, which your employer is not allowed to do. So if you're making minimum wage, it's possible that your overtime rate that you're owed is actually going to be more than time and a half your regular time rate. Now, if you're a tipped employee and you have any questions about how this overtime works, contact our office. We're happy to explain it to you. It is a little bit complicated. We want to make sure that all employers know what their obligations are, all employees know what their rights are, so everyone's paid correctly the first time. Our office has a lot of resources and tools on our website. Like I said, we want everyone to be paid correctly the first time. We want everybody to know what their rights are. So we have all of these tools on our website for you. One of them is the minimum wage calculator. This is just a useful tool on our website where you can plug in how many hours you work. If you receive tips, it's going to help you see what your gross wages should be. So if you're looking at your pay stub, you can look at it, compare it to our minimum wage calculator online, and it could let you know if you're being underpaid, if you're owed money, and maybe that you would want to contact us. That's available on our website, denverwages.org. Another tool for the food and beverage industry specifically, like I mentioned, tips have to be documented. We need some evidence of tips received so that we can confirm that the tip credit your employer is taking is accurate. One tool that we've put together for people working in the food and beverage industry is actually a daily record of tips received. So this is letting you know you're keeping track of your tips, cash tips, credit tips, pooled tips, any other tips. So at the end of your pay period, you can say, okay, I only received $2 an hour in tips. I want to make sure that's what my paycheck shows, and that's what my hourly rate reflects. Or maybe I received $40 an hour in tips. I want to see that they're only taking that $3.02 tip credit. This is just your way of documenting your tips, making sure that you're getting paid correctly. Once again, available on our website, denverwages.org. A great tool that we've put together for employers is our underpayment calculator. It's a downloadable spreadsheet so that employers can verify if their employees are being paid correctly, or if they realize that they're not and there's an underpayment. This can help them calculate the underpayment and make everybody whole. So this is downloadable on our website. You plug in all of your payroll information. It's got formulas all built in, and it's going to tell you how much each employee is owed. Another resource for employers is the mandatory poster for job sites. So this is a requirement in the ordinance. It has the hourly minimum wage. It has the total tip credit that they can take, instructions for contacting our office. And this is a PDF version that's downloadable and printable on our website, denverwages.org. Now, if you believe that you or someone you know might have been underpaid and was not paid the Denver minimum wage, you can submit a complaint to our office. The easiest way to do that is our online form available on our website. You can kind of see what it looks like here. We're asking for all of the information. Who do you work for? Where do you work? You can also email us that relevant information to our email address, wagecomplaints@denvergov.org, or you can call us 720-913-5039. Who can submit a wage complaint under this ordinance? Well, anyone can. It can be the underpaid employee. It could be a third party, maybe a family member, community organization working with that employee, customers, clients of that employee. Or it can be an anonymous complaint. The most important thing when submitting a complaint is giving us as much information as possible. The first step of any investigation is we need to make sure that that complaint is credible. So we need to know, who is the employer? Is the work being performed within Denver? Is there a complaint that somebody is being underpaid? We're looking to make sure we have enough information to move forward. So even if you want to put in an anonymous complaint, make sure you're giving us as much information as you can, because if we deem your complaint credible, we are going to initiate an investigation. Here's our contact information. Like I said, if you have any specific questions on anything on this presentation, please let us know. We're happy to help you understand what your obligations are as an employer or what your rights are as an employee. We want to be here to help you. We're super responsive. We all check this email and you're going to get a response from us pretty quickly. So any questions you have, you also have the option of submitting them as a a comment on this video or contacting us through Facebook. And then I will say, if you know anybody who's working in the food and beverage industry who's a native Spanish speaker and would like this information in Spanish, we're going to be doing this same presentation next Wednesday at noon in Spanish. So definitely let them know. And if you have any questions, contact us here. Otherwise, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and have a great day.